Has revival started in the valleys? Hello and welcome to the Hope Cymru Talk Show. I'm Marcus Nelson, and today I'm joined by my good friend, the pastor of Noddva Church in Abersucken, whose name is John Funnell. John, it's fantastic to have you with us today.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Man, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time.
Me too.
Tell us, John, about the valleys in general. So you're in one valley, you're in a town in one of the valleys. Tell us about the valleys in general, and then about Abersucken in particular.
Okay, great. Well, the valleys are, they're a wonderful place. That there are people that retain things that much of society has lost. They've retained strong community, and I love them for it. But that has been formed because of years, generations of suffering and being let down by various state institutions. They've had a hard time. You know, when the work was there, it was hard work. You were on the coalface or on the iron forge, and now the work has gone and they've had to deal with the social deprivation of all of that. Abersucken is quite a unique place. We're on the Eastern Valley, between Pontypool and Blenavon. Those who went to school in Wales would know Blenavon because it's where the big pit is, which seems to be every child's favourite school trip. If you pan out, north of our valley would be Abergavenny and south Newport. I argue that we're the forgotten valley. Most of the valleys west of us, dare I say, are gentrifying because they've become commuter belts for cities such as Cardiff, Swansea. We are in the east, landlocked, in an area of real poverty. Some of the statistics are horrific. So in our local comprehensive school, 72% of the kids are in single parent homes. Out of the 28% that don't meet that statistic, it's unlikely that it's their dad that's in the home. Sometimes it's two mums. We are one of the top areas for free school meals when that was a statistic. We've got fourth generation unemployment. We've also got the highest amount of children in the care system in the whole of Europe. So that there's real social deprivation. And my fear is that what we're seeing in Abersucken is coming for the rest of the UK. The reason being is that we lost nominal Christianity 2 generations before everyone else. When the mines closed and the people unionised, they left the chapels for the workmen's hall. And you saw the breakdown of family and the breakdown of certain traditions that would uphold communities positively.
The valleys in general are areas of high deprivation. There has been the closure of the heavy industries of the past, and that's meant that there's second, third generation unemployment, difficult, complex social problems that have gone alongside with that, and underlying spiritual, moral problems as well that all sort of come together as one. What efforts are there being made more widely to address these, problems and issues within the valleys, John?
So there's lots of government initiatives out there, and they do their best, and I believe it all comes from a right place. There's various organisations that are teaching the people of the valleys, life skills, CV writing, how to cook so they can live more healthily. There's all sorts going on. Help with budgeting, help with claiming benefits, and it's all well meant. But anytime there's a change of government, you'll see these things get cut pretty quickly. They don't have the longevity to make a real difference. And in fact, these organisations come and go to the vitriol of the people in the community. People come to help with best intentions, and they're celebrated when they go in a few months. It's almost like the community rebels against such hope and such help. But again, at best it's superficial. You need heart change, and that's where the gospel comes in.
Amazing. That's what we want to hear about, John. That's what we're excited to hear about. So you would say in that sense that the Prime Minister at the moment has been saying at the beginning of his administration, describing it as fixing the foundations. You would argue, John, that on past experience, that they're not really drilling down deep enough in terms of fixing what the foundations really are. John, tell us about how you ended up in Abersucken. You weren't brought up in a Christian family. You weren't marked out as being a pastor of a Christian church from when you were born. How did you get here? Like, first of all, how did you become a Christian? And then tell us, like, how did you end up in Abersucken?
Yeah. Okay, so I grew up in North London. I had a slight Christian influence through my grandfather, who had a big part in raising me, and he'd come from a Romanian Orthodox background. So he would read me Bible stories as a child, which, looking back now, is significant. But at the time, I thought little of it. But yeah, I was raised in a secular environment, a typical modern post-Christian Western family that paid little attention to God.
What were you interested in growing up, John? What were the things that kept you going? And
things not befitting of a minister. I really enjoyed football. I was a big Tottenham Hotspur fan. So football, boxing, being out with friends. Yeah, I had a secular life.
How did you move from North London to Wales?
Yeah, so I had a difficult childhood, broken home and all that comes with that. Most of my family are from South Wales. So I would spend much of my holidays, although growing up in London, in the Gwent region. So Gwent was always home from home, really. But then I moved up in my late teens to be with family here. Went to university, got headhunted by a company, did very well in business by God's grace. And I saw the vanity of life at that level and then picked this up. There's a far wider story to this. I'm keeping it short for the purpose of this interview, but I picked this up and I met with God. And I started going to church at Emmanuel in Newport under the ministry of the late Reverend Graham Harrison. The church saw a calling on me and were wonderfully supportive. Reverend Graham Harrison retired, and then Bernard Lewis took over, and then he continued to develop me. I had a wide itinerant ministry at the time, and I was preaching throughout Wales, M4 corridor. But I went to Nodfa. There was about half a dozen elderly souls in the pews, and the first time I went there, which was 2012, I knew this is where I needed to be. I describe it as if you watch a survival program and you see one of these experts make a fire. They get a spindle and they rub it onto wood to make an ember. That's what I saw at Nodfa Church. There was this ember of triune love. And I knew that all I had to do was go out and get the grass, get the dry wood, and fire will come. I knew that's where I wanted to be. Now, when I made that clear, people said to me, why would you want to go to Abersucken? And particularly Nodfa Church, it's literally weeks away from closure. But I knew that's where the Lord wanted me. Today we serve about 300 people a week. Our average congregation on a Sunday is 150 plus. Our largest demographic is young men under 30. It's incredible what the Lord's done. We have our own seminary, Valley School of Theology. We also have a Nod for Learning hub where we partner with the local comprehensive school. We've got 21 students registered there. We have an award-winning food bank that provided 50,000 meals during the first lockdown. We are open 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day of the week, serving the community, building bridges, earning the right to share the gospel with people, and loving them as Jesus first loved us. And it's wonderful to see the transformation in people's lives. We're a church saturated with prayer. Every meeting is a prayer meeting in some form. And we have men's groups, women's groups, mixed groups, youth groups. Discipleship is ongoing. And it's what the Lord has done.
Amazing, John. Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's drill down into some of those things, John. So, you speak about earning the right to share the gospel. There might be some who would say, well, everybody should just listen. Yeah. They should listen. Yeah. Why would you say that we need to, earn the right for people to listen to us? What's changed in society at the moment that means that's the case?
Yeah, I think because Christendom had cultural dominance for a millennia, we became arrogant and complacent. And a message is only as good as the bridge that it's carried on. And I think we've forgotten how to earn the right to share the gospel. And, a key verse for my ministry over the last decade has been Proverbs 18:13. Those who answer before listening bring upon themselves folly and shame. And I fear that Christians are too quick to go and oppress people with the gospel or impose people with the gospel, when really we should listen to them. This is what Jesus did in the Gospels. I often think of blind Bartimaeus. When he cries out, "Son of David, have mercy on me," Jesus stops everything and goes and listens to him. Everyone was telling blind Bartimaeus to keep quiet, keep quiet. No one wants to hear from you. Jesus comes to him and says, "What do you want?" Now, you don't need to be the Son of God to know what blind Bartimaeus wants. He wants to see. Why did Jesus ask him? Because he wanted to give him a voice. And this is what we do as a church. We listen and we listen and we listen. And people talk and talk and talk, and they break. And we give them Jesus. And because we've listened to them, they trust us. And because they see in our incarnational ministry that we're worth trusting by the grace of God, that then the message has power.
I love that one, John. I love blind Bartimaeus and the way in which the Lord responds to him, what can I do for you? Which is it's the question that the servant would ask the master, isn't it? Yes. And Jesus is just then saying, as he'd say just before that passage, the Son of Man has come to seek and save the lost, and that he's come to be a servant, not to be served. What does that look like in that way, John? Stepping into Jesus' shoes, walking in his ways in that way, not, imposing things, but seeking to draw alongside people and listen. What are the different ways in which you're serving the community in Aberystwyth? Yeah,
there's so many opportunities, and that's it. I think every crisis presents an opportunity to share God's love. And in our valley, there's a lot of crisis. There's a lot of drama. We're dealing with people that are from broken homes and broken lives. They've been to prison. They've been on drugs. We've got a number of different kids from a number of different partners. Sin is open, and sin is also our best evangelist. And what we've done as a church through our work in the community, we have repositioned ourselves from the fringe to the centre. and we are the place that people come to when they are broken. That takes its toll, but we as Christians, we have been redeemed to be part of God's plan for these people. And our calling is to go the extra mile and love them beyond what the world loves them. And that's what we seek to do.
That's interesting, John, because that sort of putting yourself at the centre of the community has traditionally been more the aspiration, at least, of the Anglican Church, the Church in Wales or the Church of England and its parish system. Is that the case for the nonconformist churches? Are you stepping into the Anglican world and owning that model through doing that?
Yeah, I love many parts of Anglicanism and have a great respect for Anglican history, and I love what you do. And yeah, I've totally, some would say plagiarised, I would say liberated the Anglican model. I've essentially turned our valley into my parish. And yeah, Nodfa is the church that everyone in our valley doesn't go to, but it's their church. Yes. Yeah. So I am their Pastor John. If someone dies, they want me to do the funeral. If someone's getting married, I get a call. But yeah, they might never darken the door of the church, but they would tell everyone. When the Jehovah's Witnesses come knock in, they'll tell them they're part of Nodfa Church.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So we've become the cultural centre of the valley. And again, you hear where we've come from, half a dozen on a Sunday to where we are now, and we thank God for that blessing. But there's still 9,800 people in our valley that we have no engagement with, or little engagement with. So we've still got a lot of work to do.
There's a lot more work to do, John. No, fantastic what's happened so far. What does that look like? You say, the church is open almost 24/7.
Yeah. Okay, so listening to the needs of the community, we have got two significant people groups in our valley: working class and benefit class. And I don't mean that with any prejudice. It's the nature of our area. There is very little work. Those that can work, 1 in 5 of my church are employed. It's predominantly shift work. It's low income jobs, and they have to work 12 on, 12 off, which means Sunday mornings isn't always achievable for them. So we put church on throughout the week in these various different guises for them to come and meet with God and have fellowship. So if they can't come on a Sunday morning, they can come on a Thursday night or a Wednesday morning or what have you. The other benefit of having a church open all the time is for those that are unemployed, because then they have an avenue to keep busy and find purpose and meaning and accountability. So yeah, it seems to tailor to the needs of our community well.
Just run us through an average week, Joseph. What does it look like? Starting on a Sunday and run through
Yeah.
the day?
So Sunday morning, it's church, obviously. We have a pre-church prayer meeting that several gather to come to pray for the souls who are coming that day. We have church, which starts at 11, finishes at 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then there's the time of fellowship afterwards. We then have baptism classes. Then Sunday evening, we have youth church in the chapel and then home groups across the valley, where they receive a weekly newsletter with questions from the morning service to then discuss. Then on Monday morning, we open the Nodfa Learning Hub, which, as I said, has a number of students come. So the Learning Hub, they get taught English, Math, Science by teachers from the comprehensive school, and then they get taught a variety of different things from volunteers in the church, whether that's plumbing and plastering to craft, whatever. They go into our food share hub and do stock taking. It's for kids, pupils that are disenfranchised from typical academic models. They come to us and learn on the job. And they're taught by volunteers within the church. They're meeting people that aren't teachers, that are Christians, and they're loving them in service, which is wonderful for them. And we've seen transformation in the lives of these pupils. And that goes through Monday to Friday. Monday evening, we have a women's Bible study. Tuesday evening, we have a grief group. Grief is a huge problem. Everyone's grieving. It's not just for people that have recently lost a loved one. Some people are still wrestling with grief 10 years after losing a loved one. It might not even be grief caused by the loss of a person. It could be grief caused by a loss of a job. And we've got a wonderful lady, Anne, that runs that for us. So that's on a Tuesday night. Wednesday, we have prayer meeting and Bible study. Thursday night, we have men's meeting. Friday night, we have Nod for juniors and Nod for teens. We also have Nod for teens on a Tuesday night too. Wednesday, we also have the band practices, but it's not just the band that plays for us on a Sunday. There's other musicians that come and they have a time of worship together, playing to God's glory. Then on Saturday, we have Valley School of Theology, and then Sunday church. There's also other seeded ministries that happen throughout that. So our food share is open 3 days a week where we feed the poor. There's all sorts of other things that are constantly happening. We've got Laura, who's a wonderful soul, and she goes into the schools 3 days a week. There's 1,200 pupils in our valleys across 3 schools, and she gets them singing the gospel. She runs singing lessons with them. And it's phenomenal when I receive videos from teachers of the kids randomly singing gospel songs that Laura's taught them in classrooms or on school trips. It's amazing. There's one video of them on the bus and they're singing "How Great Is Our God." It's amazing. And then she also leads a work in care homes for the other 2 days a week. The Valley School of Theology, how that works is a day of lectures on Saturday, and then you put it into immediate practice during the week. So we have 4 ministry apprentices on that, and then there's another 2 from other churches. But the 4 that are Nodfa, they go out, they witness the gospel in Pontypool High Street. They're walking around constantly praying for people. They're in the local schools doing Bible studies. Even one of them runs a chess club. So that there's just all sorts going out. Our view with this is the parable of the sower. So Jesus teaches us that 1 in 4 make it.
Yes.
Right? So what we aim to do is witness to 4 times the people every week that we're preaching to on a Sunday morning. So, that's how your church will grow. Theoretically, it's the Lord's blessing. But yeah, we're utterly saturated as a church to an extent where we're actually holding meetings in another chapel down the road. That's in a position where Nodfa was, sadly, but we're hoping to bless them. Utterly saturated on the premise, but also in our outward work too. So there's a lot going on all the time. When I first came, it was a traditional Welsh chapel, big balconies, long pews, a lot of wood. There's a wonderful hall at the back, and fair play to that remnant of members that remained. They sacrificed a lot to keep the building as it was. But in the last few years, we've had difficulties that the heating broke. So we had to spend 6 months of the year further up the valley in a community centre. So we would rent that out and then come back to the chapel for the summer. But we managed to get grants because of what we do for the community. There's a lot of grants from the council and even secular organisations that allowed us to get heating. And when we were preparing the walls for the heating, we could see that everything was rotten, including the balcony, and actually it was a huge risk of collapse. So we had to strip out January this year the entire chapel, where we discovered that there was actually a stream running through the chapel for 180 years since it was built, and that would overflow in bad weather and rot everything. So we've had to dig through, refloor. We're going for a massive refurbishment project in the chapel, but how the Lord has provided in this way is incredible. You know, we're a large church, we are a busy church, but only 1 in 5 work. So we're utterly sustained by third-party support, and people have been so generous. We've had help from churches across Wales and churches in America. We've had grants from the council and people that have come to do things for us, recognising the work we do for the community, have done it at half price or lower. So our new floor was 50% off, our new heating system was 50% off, farmers were taking away waste for free. You know, it was incredible. We had a gentleman lend us a digger for free. You know, for weeks and weeks we had this digger that would, you know, they're £200 a day to rent. Just everyone, the community helping. And because we're blessed with lots of young men, many with trades, they volunteered their time and did the work. And it's a miracle what God has done. We were quoted upwards of £500,000 just for the refurbishment. Currently, we've spent a 20th of that, which is it's incredible. And we were told it would take 2 to 3 years. And we started in January. By May, we were back in the chapel. It's a miracle of God. There's still lots of work to be done, but we're warm and we're dry, and it's a safe space to worship God. It's transformative. So the last 5-6 years, we've baptised 80 people at North.
80 people?
Yeah.
Wow.
And as I said, predominantly young men. And yeah, we're seeing young men go from being boys to fathers and good husbands. And that's impacted their families, and then their wives and children start coming. We've seen people that were totally unemployable get work. That's where it is hard, because purely from a selfish reason, you put a lot of effort and time into these people. God works in them in remarkable ways, and then they move away because of work. But they bless other churches, and that's wonderful. There's one gentleman, he came to us, stick thin, heroin addict. The Lord rescued him, and he was clean for a couple of years, and then aspired to get work. And he moved to England then. We found a church for him. He plugged himself in there, and has been working since. And then a few months ago, he sent me a message saying he was getting married. It's an incredible story. And we've seen that time and time again amongst men and women, every demographic, the Lord's worked, but particularly in young men.
And why is it that young men especially are responding to that, John?
Yeah, so there's 3 lies that the world tells us. When I say the world, our modern Western culture. 1, you're good enough just the way you are. 2, you can be anything you want to be. And 3, nothing's your fault. You're a product of your environment. And these lies work out in suburban areas. I'm pretty good. I haven't killed anyone. I've never been in trouble with the police. I'm a nice guy. I can be anything I want to be. I'm going to go to university. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to get married and have kids and get a mortgage and go on 2 holidays a year and have a nice car. Save up for a nice retirement. Brilliant. 3rd, nothing's your fault. Well, I smoke a bit of weed. I go out and have fun with my mates and maybe drink a little bit too much. But, Mummy and Daddy got divorced, so I had to have 2 Christmases as a kid. That's why I sometimes go off the rails a bit. And that's suburban Britain, isn't it? In my valley, those lies do not work. They're revealed for what they are. And you have these young men that are told by their social workers and their parole officers that you're good, that you are innately good. And they know that they're not. And I've been to prison for assault. I'm a heroin addict. I've got 4 kids from 4 different women who I never see. I'm not good. They come to Northford Church and they hear the gospel that confirms they're not good. That before a holy God, you are a wretch. You are a sinful, broken man. And when they hear that, they respond, that is true. I know that to be true of me. Then they get the hope in that message. That when you come to realize your brokenness, you will understand that is the only thing that unites you to all humanity, that we are all broken. And the church is a safe space for you to be open about your brokenness and unite in your brokenness as you come to the Saviour Jesus. And then we will provide you in Christ a framework, a family for you to know accountability and for you to know productivity and for you to move forward in your life and seek forgiveness from God and allow you to forgive others and bless others. The second point, I can be anything I want to be. Well, in my valley, you can't be. You just can't. These men, they're like, I'm in my early 30s. I've never had a job that's lasted more than a month. I can't get a mortgage. I can't even get out of the valley. If I got a job, I'd lose my housing benefit, and then I'd have to, whatever money's left goes towards paying for the kids that I don't see. I'm stuck. The gospel proclaims you are a new creation. You can live a new and resurrected life. The third lie in our valley, they embrace. Nothing's your fault, you're a product of your environment. My dad was a miner. He was made redundant, turned to drink, beat my mum. This is why I'm now a heroin addict. The gospel proclaims, grow up. Be a man. Love your wife. Be a good dad to your kids. And again, the church provides a family and an infrastructure for you to do that. And I know that message, the gospel message, that is so transformative. It really speaks to these young men that have really been left behind as our society has moved away from Christendom. And it's those men I have a real heart for. Not just because of those men, but because the impact that those men then have to their wives and their kids.
It's fantastic, John, all that's happening. One final question, just as we draw this interview to a close. Praise the Lord for all that he's doing through you and the lives that are being transformed and touched and changed by Jesus and the impact that's having on the whole area and community. What would it take for such things to happen, not just in Abersoch, but much more widely? Yeah. We need people who are sold out for Jesus. And this is what we're trying to cultivate through the Valley School of Theology. Ministry is not a job. You cannot clock in and clock out. I have police knock on this week, I've had police at my house at 11:30 at night.
I didn't get to sleep till 2 that morning. That is a regular occurrence. You are on call 24/7. I get a lot of questions from well-meaning people whom I love about rest, and it is important to rest. But the ministry is not a job that you can just say, right, I'm done for the evening. You've always got to be prepared to go back out and do the hospital visit, go to that person in need. And that's not a chore. You do it because you love them. I'm asked, what do I do to switch off from it? Why would I want to switch off from it? I love these people. I live for them. I want them to know what, by the grace of God, I know in Christ. I want them to share in my joy. It overflows from me. And I don't see it as a burden. I see it as an opportunity. And we need people who are called, not people who want a job in the ministry. That's what we need. People that are willing to go the extra mile. Matthew 16:24, deny yourself of everything. Pick up the cross and follow me. And that's what we need across Wales. People who are utterly sold out for Jesus and are willing to put that film that they might have wanted to watch that night on Netflix to death for the good of the addict that is feeling low that night and just needs someone to go and give them a coach and a prayer. That's what we need, and that's what we're praying for.